right. Well, we'll hear more secrets from the Radiators this week on Let's Talk.
Join the patio planters as they present Caroling in Jackson Square. The free outdoor event is Sunday, December 22nd at 7 p.m. in historic Jackson Square. Experience the holiday tradition of candlelight, music, singing, and great fun of caroling in Jackson Square at 7 p.m. Sunday, December 22nd, or live stream it online at NOLA.com. We're local and entertaining. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams, but a little bit different today. Today, we're going to celebrate Glenn Guilbeau, again, of the editor and columnist of Tiger Rag. Also, again, is covering the Saints for Fansided. Going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We'll talk to him about his career, and then we'll talk Tulane, LSU, Saints, and Pelicans all on the program as we always do. Glenn, welcome to the show, my friend. Glenn and I, again, been working together since I got in the business 22 years ago, and does an incredible job everywhere he has been. We've done radio together. Again, he's on my radio show weekly. Again, does a great job again with his columns, and of course the editor of Tiger Rag as well. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you. And again, I've been looking forward to this. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
What an honor to go into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Again, and also going in with, again, the late Ed Daniels, who will also be inducted as well. Talk a bit about it, if you would.
Yeah, it was, it was a great thrill, and to go in with Ed is an honor. I've known Ed for a long time. We weren't at Rummel together. Right. He was right above me and went to Rummel with one of my brothers, Kevin, but Ed and I were together at the National Sportscasters and Sports Writers in North Carolina with his wife several years ago, and Ed's always been kind of a mentor and good contact for LSU stuff. He was, and the Saints obviously, but LSU too. So that's fun. And Nick Saban may be going in this year. They've been trying to get a time when he can actually make it. That may happen this summer, so that would be cool. And Herb Vincent, who I've known since I was at LSU working in the sports information department in 1982 under Paul Manasseh, a great SID legend. Herb's going in at the same time, so it's going to be very fun. And you know, my wife's family is from Shreveport, so we actually drove through Natchitoches over the weekend. But Natchitoches is a cool town, so it should be a lot of fun. Yeah, of course, Coach Joe Sherman of Delgado going in. Right. Another friend of Herb and me. Yeah. Right. A guy that I grew up with, you know, childhood friend. Also, NFL star, former LSU star Andrew Whitworth, former Grace King and NBA star Danny Granger, just to name a few that will be inducted into this year's class. And of course, Glenn Guilbeau and also Ed Daniels
going in as well as part of the Distinguished Service Award in Sports Journalism. First of all, for folks that don't know, where did you grow up?
Grew up in Metairie, right here in Metairie, by the old Jefferson Downs racetrack, which they turned into Lafreniere Park. Played baseball out there, so went to St. Mary Magdalene in Metairie and Rummel.
And then from there again.
I went to LSU for 1 year.
1 year,
freshman year. Lived in Hodges, right next to Tiger Stadium.
Right.
79, 80. I was a freshman, and then got into the portal.
Right.
To Missouri. Yeah, I wanted to go to Missouri originally, but my mom wanted me to go to LSU for 1 year and save on the out-of-state tuition. But then I went up to Missouri and got into the journalism school there, and actually transferred back to LSU as a junior, and work for Paul Manassa in the sports information department, just for those contacts. And my grades were a little low at Missouri. I had to sit out a semester. So I sat out 2 semesters.
Brutally honest here on TV.
And then went back to Missouri in the summer of '83 and graduated in August. You know, on time would have been May, but I graduated in August, and then started right after that at Tiger Rag in 1983 for Steve Myers. I haven't been there ever since. I left for several jobs and then came back to Tiger Rag this past September.
Now, 2 questions. First of all, graduate of LSU or Missouri?
Graduated from Missouri.
Just
took electives and basically partied at LSU.
And partied at LSU. Okay, well, which a lot of people do, by the way, or at least back then they did. Why Missouri?
Well, when I was in high school, I worked at the Raiders Digest at Rummel, and you know, I knew I wanted to be a sports writer, really in grade school, really. And Michael Boudreau ran the newspaper at Rummel. He was also the cross-country coach. He's cousins with Peter Barriquet. And Michael was a sports writer on the side as well, and he was a great journalism teacher as he ran the Raiders Digest. And he was the first one to tell me about the University of Missouri, because really at the time, LSU's journalism school wasn't nearly as good as it got later in the 80s, when I was getting out of school in '79. So, and I thought it was cool to go out of state to Missouri, and you know, it's a state school like LSU, and close to the Cardinals and the Royals baseball teams. At the time, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball writer, but I switched from that. But Missouri was a great place to go. Also did radio there. There was a great student radio station, KCOU, and took some TV classes as well. But majored and focused on print at the newspaper there. So that was a lot of fun going there.
You mentioned you always wanted to be have a career in journalism. Where does that stem from?
Well, you know, I just used to read the paper religiously as a kid, the Times-Picayune. I mean, there were so many great writers there back in the '70s when we were growing up, you know. And you had the States Item. Remember the green States Item, you know, with Bob Marshall, the great outdoor writing legend, was the Saints beat guy in the '70s, and he was great, man. And you know, Larry McMillan, Bob Rossler, Finney, all those guys, and Brian Ellie Walsh, and John Jones. You know, those guys did great jobs. Memories. Yeah, on the Saints. And you know, I just read. My parents read the paper all the time. And I read a lot of sports books as you know, even at 6 and 7 years old. Dave Anderson, great quarterbacks in the NFL, great running backs in the NFL.
Had the same books.
Yeah. Read all those little hard covers. But so it was just kind of. And my mom was an English teacher and the librarian she was an English teacher at Chappelle, later the librarian at Rummel. You know, so I had a strong English background, and it's just kind of a natural progression, really.
Influences, mentors in this business?
Well, the Picayune writers, I would say Marty Muley was another one, and you know, the guys who covered the Saints and the Jazz. Marty covered the Jazz when they first got to New Orleans, and I would say Finney as well, and then when I was working at LSU in the sports information department, it was so cool because I got to meet all those guys, you know, because they were covering the team, and got to meet with those guys and hang out with those guys. And Scooter Hobbs was another mentor, and and good friend. He's 7 years older than me, so he was already really established when I was in school, and he was a recent inductee into the same Hall of Fame. Yeah, I would say those guys, and really like Frank DeFord at Sports Illustrated. And there was a guy named John Schillian who worked at the Chicago paper. Sometimes I think Mike Royko, Tom Boswell.
Yes.
And you know, my mom at the Rummel Library, she would get papers from all over the country.
Yes.
Like, you know, they would come in 4 or 5 days late. You know, pre-internet, like the Cleveland Plain Dealer, Hal Leibowitz, and Boston, Peter, Bob Ryan, and all those writers. So I would read all those out-of-town papers, and then at the Missouri Library had the same thing, but my mom had it first.
Yeah.
Or I saw it first there. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd do the same thing growing up. Again, in looking for papers, go in the library, go down to the New Orleans Public Library.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did the same thing. It's funny again how as a young kid, if you really love to be in this business. Another thing for radio, I had a transistor radio in my ear all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Listen to radio. Even before, when talk radio was in its infancy. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, listening to it, but always listening to sports.
Yeah, I know. The talk radio, there wasn't a lot of it for sports. You know, you had Eric Tracy was on WWL.
Right.
It wasn't sports, though.
No, it wasn't.
And Maury McGill, I think, had some talk shows. Yes. But yeah, that was few and far between. But yeah, my dad definitely listened to the Astros all the time on the radio. I grew up listening to the Astros, and when they played on the West Coast, you know, had the transistor underneath the pillow.
Yes, me too. Me too.
And yeah, those were the days. So you know, we're both kind of warped because we grew up Astro and Saint fans, and they were so bad in the '70s.
Yes.
I think
and then here come the Jazz.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we got so used to
losing
bad sports.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. No doubt. Publication. Start with Tiger Rag, right?
Yeah.
Talk about again your career. Because again, in your career, you've written for a lot of different publications. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. Well, I could have started out at some small papers around Missouri when I was getting out of school, but I was hell bent on covering LSU. You know, I followed LSU so much as a kid. I wanted to cover LSU as a kid, and as I was graduating that summer from Missouri, Tom Lindley was the sports editor at the Picayune, and he called me and offered me a job over the phone. That's the kind of rep Missouri had and has. And you know, I had sent him some clips, and he offered me a job covering in the St. Bernard Bureau, covering high schools. Okay, because at the time in the '80s, the Picayune had all those metro
all little small
sections. The paper was so huge and successful, and I should have taken that job, but I wanted to cover LSU. I didn't want to cover high schools.
Yeah.
You know, it was a dumb mistake. So I decided I wanted to cover LSU. But the Tiger Rag was not a daily, so I was there for a year or so, and it was a lot of fun. But then I got a job at a daily paper, the Montgomery Advertiser, in Alabama, like in '85, and started covering Alabama and Ray Perkins, and that was really, you know, a really hard first job, and really opened some doors, and learned how to cover a college beat there.
From there, where?
From there, I went to move back home, and actually got fired in Montgomery. It was a very competitive beat, and I was not breaking enough stories. So moved back home, which was disappointing. I was, you know, still pretty young out of college. I started working at the Slidell Century News, sports editor, only for a few months, and then got a job at the Alexandria Town Talk in '87 as a copy editor in sports, and then moved to high school beat and then LSU beat in '89. And so then I've really been covering LSU and major colleges ever since. Covered LSU at the Town Talk from '89 through '93. Those are some great years for basketball. Chris Jackson, Shaq.
Oh yes.
And then in '93 went back to Alabama as the Alabama writer, this time for the Mobile Register, which was a great paper, just becoming a great paper. A guy named Stan Tyner from Shreveport was at the Shreveport Journal. He went down to Mobile and just kind of took over, and had a publisher from Shreveport, and he started hiring people from Louisiana. that's how I got the job, and that was a great 5 years there. Covered Alabama, covered Auburn, covered the Saints a little bit, and the Senior Bowl, and minor league baseball,
right.
and then went from there to the Baton Rouge Advocate.
Yes.
See, Alabama, Louisiana. So went to the Baton Rouge Advocate in 1998 as LSU football writer, and did that until 2004. Went to USA Today, Louisiana. They hired, for the first time, they hired a beat guy for all their Gannett papers in the state. There were 5 of them in Baton Rouge, so I didn't have to move. So I took that job and did that, you know, for 20 years, from 04, almost 20 years to 21. Went to Outkick.com, which is under Fox News, and was a national writer for 3 years.
Yes.
They did not renew my contract, so you know it's been an up and down career in that way, and then landed at Tiger Rag, and in between there wrote that Skip book.
That's right. That's what we're going to talk about in a minute. It's changed though, huh? In terms of, again, journalism, a newspaper. I know my industry, again, radio, TV has changed. It's amazing, again, how things have changed so quickly, especially with, again, the advent of the internet. Yeah,
it's definitely changed, and some of it I don't like. You know, I'm kind of old school, and you know, kind of deep dives and detailed writing, and you know, Outkick didn't always like that. It was kind of strange. And USA Today also went through a lot of changes. They changed every 6 months, and they just kind of lost it really. A lot of people, when I left USA Today, Louisiana, we were connected with papers in the region, and we had like 15 guys leave out of the SEC area in a year. So a lot of the changes have not been good. They're too trending oriented, but you know, it's also, you can reach more people. You know, you can definitely reach more people and have more much quicker access with the internet and so forth, and that was really true at Outkick. Just the reach of that place is amazing.
No doubt. How did this come about? Everything Matters in Baseball, the Skip Bertman story. Again, have you always wanted to write a book?
You know, not really. I mean, you know, I think everybody who's a sports writer or a journalist thinks about possibly writing a book, but you know, most books don't sell, you know, unless you're John Grisham. And you know, I never could really think of what would be a good idea for a book, but this kind of fell in my lap in about 2018. Just kind of bumped into Skip and Dan Canterbury as assistant coach at a football game at LSU in the little press conference, press box area, and Skip had trouble finding an author, and I just sat there and talked to him, and I got interested in it, and I convinced him that I could do it, and I gave him a couple of samples, and he liked it, and that was an easy book for me to write because I'd already kind of lived it and covered it, and so much of the book is just my memory, and then looking up to make sure the memory's right, and it was really second nature. Like I couldn't go do a book on, you know, a hockey coach in Connecticut right now. You know, I didn't have to do any research. Is what I'm saying. Yes. It was all, you know, I knew it in my sleep. And Skip was just a great person to interview and very helpful, and gave me a lot of time, and got that done in New Year's Eve 2021, and it was published the next August 22.
That's pretty quick.
Or August, I think it was actually published August 21.
Right.
Got it done New Year's Eve 2020. It was published August of 2021, and it's still selling pretty well.
Yeah, it is. It is. We'll talk more about that as we go forward. Would you like to write another one?
You know, I think I would. Maybe not another LSU book, but you know, I've talked to people about Omaha, LSU in Omaha, another baseball book.
Yes.
But I would like to do another one. I would like to do a Nick Saban book, but there's been so many of them done. But you know, I'm not sure what the topic would be.
Right. Also did some radio with us over WIST, the old WTIX. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I did that with Larry Holder.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. That was right after the Saints won the Super Bowl, and we did that in 2010
Yep.
and 11. That was a lot of fun. Larry was great on the radio, and a great sports writer. Another Rumble kid.
Another Rumble kid. Yeah, I'm trying to not get into that too deep.
But I actually I hosted a show in 2003 and 4 with Kenny Trahan's station.
990.
Yes, 990, and that was a lot of fun. That was a once a week show too. So I've done that a lot on the side, but it's I don't see how you guys do it every day.
Yeah, well. It is.
I've always just done it once a week.
I don't know how you cover the teams every day and have to deal with all the athletes, but that's okay. Which I tried to do for a while, and it's just not my cup of tea. Speaking of athletes, coaches that you've covered, some of the most memorable games that you've covered with these athletes,
well,
relationships that were maybe built because of it.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest athletes you've seen as a sports writer.
Well, I was lucky. I've always been more geared to the coaches than the players, really. But I mean, I was really lucky. I got to cover Skip Bertman and Nick Saban.
Yeah.
You know, they both the best at their field, and they were actually at the same place briefly when
Dale Brown when you were
and Dale Brown,
right? Because when you were at Tiger Rag, right? And also in Baton Rouge,
right.
Writing for
when I first started at Tiger Rag, Dale Brown was the coach. He was still the coach when I was covering LSU for the Town Talk, and you know, just the Final Fours and regionals with him, and talking about players, you know, the Chris Jackson years was so awesome, and Shaq of course, and John Williams and Vernell Singleton, and just the trips with Dale to the tournament. That was a lot of fun, and that was going on while, you know, Skip was winning big too in the 90s. Because that's when football was on the 6 years of straight losing. So it was all basketball and baseball when you were covering LSU in the 90s, you know, and then in the early 2000s and late 90s at the Advocate, you know, covering Skip and Nick's first national championship in 03, Skip's last national championship in 2000, and then John Brady goes to the Final Four in 06. Maneri wins the national championship in 09. That was a lot of fun, and really got to be good friends with John Brady and Maneri over that time. So it was really I was lucky enough to be covering LSU at a great time. You can't beat Skip and Nick.
No, you can't. It's hard to beat. That really is. Some of the most memorable games you've covered.
You know, I would say that whole Super Bowl week
in Miami?
the Saints in Miami.
That was an incredible week.
You know, I've never been a Saints beat writer. I've always covered the Saints on the side while I'm covering LSU, and I still do that now. And I covered the Saints when I was at Outkick, and I'm now covering them for Fansided. But when I was at USA Today, Louisiana. You know, they were really interested in me covering the Saints too, and that 09 season was so special. You kind of knew when they got Greg Williams in that they were going to be pretty good, because that was the missing link, and they got off to such a good start early, and they won their first 13 games. So we started gearing up for, man, this could be the Super Bowl.
As we did, Yeah,
and then when they beat the Patriots in that awesome game, so that whole year, and really, as we got into November and December. When college football ends, man, I was all Saints. I was covering the Saints like every day, and then we sent 3 people to the Super Bowl. We're all 3 in the same room, and they had the media in Fort Lauderdale. Me, another writer, and a photographer, and we got there the Sunday night before the Super Bowl.
As I did too.
I couldn't believe the little Gannett papers put up the money for that, but we did special sections from the playoffs going into the Super Bowl. It was a lot of work, but man, that year was so special.
It was an incredible year.
You know,
especially for somebody growing up in the city, right?
Oh yeah, and the
being
whole
a Saints
Katrina,
fan as a kid,
the Katrina thing, and you know, and the way you know, I was at the game when they kicked the winning field goal to beat Minnesota
Yes.
in overtime to go to the Super Bowl. But then I remember watching the TV, they showed the empty streets. And I thought it was a film clip of the empty streets from Katrina.
Okay.
But it was all the people had left Bourbon Street to go into the bar to watch the field
game.
goal.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
Right.
It was unbelievable. And I wrote about that the next day. That was like the follow stuff. And Scooter was there with me covering. And we stayed at a place in the quarter.
Yeah.
Right off of Bourbon. And that was just a blast.
That was the NFC Championship game, right?
No, that was the the NFC Championship game when they beat Minnesota.
Yes, right.
And you know, that was really bigger than the Super Bowl game, really, in a way. Just winning it in New Orleans and the whole Katrina thing, and then getting to New Orleans, then getting to the Super Bowl. It was just a great lead up, and then it was just such a magical Super Bowl game.
Right.
And then wrote about, you know, that for for another week with the whole party with Lombardi.
Yes.
Oh, and you know, the greatest thing about all that too was, you know, that was kind of the last year where newspapers were still big.
That's right.
You know, because you remember people lined up outside the old Times-Picayune offices on Howard, right?
To get the paper.
To get the paper.
Right.
Who does that? They never did that in any other city before that,
Right.
or since. You know, that shows you the kind of how important the Picayune was to New Orleans.
There's no doubt.
And it's a shame it got taken over by the Advocate. But it's still, that paper combined, it's one of the best dailies you're going to find. It's like a dinosaur, but it's still surviving. And that was kind of its last hurrah. I felt how everybody went and got that paper. But you know, and then that ended, and then it was Mardi Gras, and I'm at the Bacchus Parade, and Drew Brees is over at the Surfers Bar. You know, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it really
man.
does. It was a magical. It was a magical year. It was a magical time. That Peyton Brees era was again one, especially for a city and a fan base that again had been, I don't want to say it hadn't been used to losing, but had lost so much in the history of the organization.
Yeah, and then here they turn it around in 06 with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and they go to the NFC Championship game.
Right.
You know, and that's right after we thought we might lose the team.
That's right.
You know, people forget Tom Benson wanted to move this team to San Antonio.
That's right.
And so did Rita Benson. There was no question. They wanted to move to San Antonio. So you almost lost the team. Your city gets ransacked.
Right.
The dome gets shredded. People talking like they're never going to play there again. So I mean, it was the ultimate roller coaster.
Ultimate rebirth too, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, great book by Jeff Duncan on all of that. And then 3 years later, they win it all, and it wasn't just like a one-time thing. I mean, the Saints were the best team in the NFL, really. From 2009 until right at the end of the Sean Payton era, you know, 5 or 6 NFC South titles. You know, they were in the playoffs consistently. I mean, that was just a great run.
What's next for Glenn Guilbeau?
Well, I'm not sure. This Tiger Rag has been really good. We have a magazine in addition to the daily, and it's been fun covering LSU again because it's easy. You know, it's just one team, one program, and really looking forward to baseball season because I think they're going to go to Omaha again, and I think perhaps another book down the road, and you know, I'm not sure how long I'll be at Tiger Rag, but I could be there for a good while.
Okay, I do want to ask you again. The business has changed so much now.
Right.
I mean, just within the last decade, how quickly things have changed again with podcasts and again blogs and the internet. Your days, how much have they changed? Because again, you're writing for 2 publications now. You're writing for Fansided and Tiger Rag. Okay, again, and again, look, you turn out articles constantly. You're churning out articles. What's your day like?
It's much busier in football season,
right,
than the rest of the year. But it's you know, it's nonstop.
I mean, you were in the green room on your computer when I walked in today.
Right, right. Yeah, because with the portal, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with the Saints, so it's constant busy work.
Yes,
is what it is, and I try to keep up with a lot of different things. Because I try to write columns and opinions and long pieces in addition to the busy work. But
yes.
There's more time for that in the off season of football.
Yes.
But no, it's very busy. It's so immediate. That's the thing that's different.
Right.
Because back in the day when you just worked for a newspaper, you might do one story a day or two a day and spend a lot of time on it. Now you're doing,
as soon as something hits,
5 or 6 a day.
You got to write on it. Yeah.
It's a different pace, and it's very quick and invigorating. And then the cool thing is, if you make a mistake, you can go back in and change it. Nobody knows.
There you go. What advice do you have to the young kid like we were growing up, that loves sports, that maybe thought this might be a career they want to get into, the young journalism student that's again at their university, that's grinding now, trying to figure out what direction they want to go? For a guy that's done it as long as you have and as well as you have, what's your advice?
Well, I would say to not be a fan. You can enjoy your teams, as we were just talking about with the Saints and LSU, but you can't be a fan because it affects your job if you're upset that your team just lost.
That's right.
And because when I was first coming up and covering LSU, it was all about how are they going to win, and you just didn't prepare for them losing, and it would affect your job. And I see it happen now to people. The best way is to not really. It's great if they win, but if they lose, that you still got to do the same job. And you can cover a team that's losing just as well as one that's winning, and that keeps you objective, because hardly anybody is objective anymore. I think there's too many fans out there. But like Ed Daniels was the best at it. He wanted the Saints to win.
Yes.
He wanted LSU to win.
Right.
But he was really objective.
Yes.
And he could be hard on those teams, particularly the Saints. But you always knew that he wanted them to win most of the time. But so that's what you got to do, I think. And now I would say advice would be to get as well read as you can be. And focus on the deep dive of a story, television or print, as well as the quick, snappy 6-paragraph story.
Yeah. And I tell this to folks all the time, because I guess you're not in the business, so you don't get it. You become so much less of, you should be less of a fan if you're in this business. Again, my fan, again, growing up, Jazz, Saints, okay, again, even when the Pelicans came, Hornets, etc., you're a fan of the team, but you lose that fandom as again, when you're in this business, because again, you have to try to be as objective as you can. So again, you love the teams, you want to see them win, but you kind of lose a little bit of that thing that got you into this business of because you were a fan first, but then you become again a professional.
Yeah, and as you become more professional, there's less of a burden.
Right.
If you're trying to cover a team and you're worried, God, I hope they win.
Right.
And a lot of fans, like Saints fans now, and this has happened to LSU fans, they get angry and they want a coach fired, so they start pulling for the team to lose. So you as a writer or a journalist, you should never want the team to win or to lose.
That's right.
You shouldn't pull for either, because you see some people pulling for them to lose too, because then there'll be a change in the coaching staff. So it's best to stay above that and out of that fray, and you'll see things more clearly.
Yes.
That's what I noticed. Like when I left Louisiana and covered the Missouri football team and the Alabama football team, man, I got no emotional interest here. I can just really enjoy this game and cover it evenly.
Yeah.
So really every journalist for a small time period should go somewhere and cover a team that they don't know anything about.
Yes.
It's a great exercise.
No doubt. Glenn Guilbeau, again, an incredible career so far, again, and much more to come. And One more time, before we go to break and hear from our underwriters, Everything Matters in Baseball, the Skip Bertman story. How can folks get the book? Or are you going to have some autograph sessions coming up?
Yeah, Tuesday, January 21st, Ken Trahan and the Quarterback Club are having a big baseball day luncheon that day at the Quarterback Club right off of Carrollton. And all baseball coaches from the city are going to be there, and Skip is going to be the keynote speaker, and they're going to be selling the book there. But you can also get the book at the Barnes & Noble on Veterans Highway here in Metairie and at acadianhouse.com, the website, and Amazon.com as well. And it's at the Barnes & Nobles in Baton Rouge.
Everything Matters in Baseball. It's a great read. If you haven't read it yet, get it. Great Christmas gift for the sports fan in your life, no doubt about it. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Glenn Guilbeau is with us. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about all the home teams next. Stick around.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Glenn Guilbeau is with us. All right, we'll start with the Saints. Losers to the Commanders, 20-19. They're 5-9, 3 to go. Green Bay, Las Vegas, at Tampa. The big story of this week is Carr, fractured hand, feared out for the season. There's been conflicting reports on whether he's going to play or not. I never thought he would play until maybe the Vegas game, if they plays at all. But what are your thoughts on Carr maybe coming back before the end of the season?
Boy, if I was Carr or his agent, I mean, he's been banged up a lot these last 2 years. You know, if he's not healthy to play this week and they lose, then they would be out of the playoffs. I would think he should not play anymore. I just don't know if he should come back unless playoffs are on the line. Mm-hmm. Amazingly, they can still get in the playoffs.
It's a numbers game, but they're not going to the playoffs.
Yeah. But I'm leaning to letting him take the rest of the year off and see what Rattler can do. You know, he had his 3 starts earlier in the season, didn't do great, but he looked pretty good in that loss to Washington. I'd like to see more of him, maybe the rest of the season. I think that's what I would do. You know, meanwhile, Rizzi is trying to get the job.
That's the thing.
Right, you know, so he probably wants to play Carr, which is natural. That's human nature. I mean, he's trying to do what we all want to do. We want to succeed. So that's what he's trying to do. But you know, I don't think he should be the coach. I think you know, it's unfortunate because he's got a little Dan Campbell in him. Right. Maybe in another situation.
Got a little Sean Payton in him too. Yeah.
Maybe it could work, but he's going to probably not get the job because the last guy was what he was, Dennis Allen. So they already did that, you know. But you know, maybe he could be the guy. But I think the Saints, like you, they need to start over. They really do.
It's time.
And I fear that they don't see that.
No, they do not.
They see themselves as just trying to keep their job, you know. And they need a complete upheaval. Yeah. They really do at the top.
Again, and Mrs. Benson for the first time is kind of on the clock here as an owner, okay, when you talk about with the Pelicans and the Saints, because again, you've been able to coast for a while because again, you had things in place, especially on the Saints side where you were winning. Again, Sean Payton is gone now, and trying to be able to hold on to the Payton years again has failed. So again, at some point again, all franchises have to reboot. And again, for both the Pelicans and the Saints, it appears, and in my opinion, again, it is time to reboot.
Well, my fear is that all Gail Benson knows about the NFL is what Dennis Lauscha and Mickey Loomis tell her. That's what my fear is. I don't know if that's true.
Right.
But she should have been, or maybe she is, talking to other owners and talking to other NFL people, because Mickey and Dennis are just going to take care of themselves. And I think, I think it's time for Mickey to move on. And I think they've been trying to ease him out for a few years. He's almost 70, and he's had a great run. But when you look at the numbers, he was best when he had Sean Payton, who I believe and others believe was the de facto GM.
Amen.
And he's not there. And they need a new GM. And that guy needs to make the hire of the new coach.
Yes.
And it needs to be a combo, and they need to start over.
And I think the fan base needs to see that as well. The fan base needs to see, again, a clean break, a new start, and get them re-energized. And I think if you don't see that, you're going to start seeing, again, longtime Saints fans, or even those short-time Saints fans who just jumped on board when they were winners, that will be saying, yeah, maybe taking a second look at maybe season tickets. And I think that's what motivates the franchise more, as most franchises, right? Again, what's happening at the box office? Yeah, and
I just fear that they're just going to keep Mickey like it's always been, and he's going to try to hire a coach, and if he hires Rizzi, maybe Rizzi will surprise us all, but if he doesn't, then you basically got Dennis Allen number 2. So then they're back where they were. It just does not look very good right now. You need an explosion is what you need.
Let's talk Tulane for a few minutes. Tulane 9-4, 7-1. They lost to Army 35-14, the American Athletic Conference Championship. They take on Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl. That is again on Friday. Tulane's 9-4, Florida 7-5. They were able to hold on to their coach, which is huge. John Summerall, again, staying with the program, was able to get an extension on his contract, more money for his assistants, and then again a commitment from Tulane about more money from revenue sharing into the football program, and of course NIL through the Fear the Wave Collective, more money going into that. They lose their quarterback, Darian Mensah, who goes to Duke. But again, they've done fairly well in the transfer pool and did fairly well again in recruiting. This is a big game against an SEC team. Your thoughts?
I mean, Tulane is one of the programs that has really benefited from the portal, unless it's just a coincidence that they've been good. But I mean, Willie Fritz's last 2 years, 12-2,
right,
and 11-3, and then Summerall comes in. He's 8-2 this season. I mean, that's a 3-year span, about as good as anything in Tulane history. I would
say so. You'd have to go back to maybe the SEC days, right?
Yeah.
To say this is as good of a run that Tulane has had.
And they almost lost their coach again, and Fritz was just here, not long. But you can be that. There's programs like that in basketball. They just keep getting new coaches, and they keep winning. Tulane can be like that. Hopefully they can keep Summerall for a while, and then. But if he leaves, they have, look at what we are. Look at the coaches we've had, and look at the jobs they've gotten.
Right.
So you're going to continue to be able to get those young, improving coaches, and maybe one will stay. Like Rick Green stayed and coached the baseball team. But I never thought Tulane would be able to keep up the pace of the portal and the money, and they're doing it. It's very impressive, and Summerall definitely considered the North Carolina job, even though he didn't get offered. He thought of it because as he explained in his press conference, I mean, it would have been more money, and he's got to think about that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm impressed with what Fritz did and what Summerall has done, and they're in a good league, and they're getting players.
Yeah, they're getting players. And look, again, the key is they got on board quickly with NIL. They understood, okay, again, and they put together that Fear the Wave Collective. I actually had Mike Arado on my radio show last week. One of the things he talked about was the fact that when you look at the Power 4 conferences, Tulane has as much money in their collective as some Power 4 conferences. They are right there at the top of the group of 5 with Memphis. So again, if you get into a bidding war with Tulane, they have the ammunition to go after a player. And then, of course, again, really it's kind of the recipe for success is kind of set up. The blueprint's there. You know, you recruit obviously Louisiana kids, okay? But those Louisiana kids that go to a Power 5 school, if they decide that this isn't for me, there's a place to come back now, and it's Tulane. And now they know they can go to a place where they can be competitive, and they have a chance to be on an NFL team. And it has worked well for Willie Fritz, and it looks like it's working well for Summerall as well.
It's working better at Tulane than it is with the Saints and Pelicans.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've been winning lately. And you know what's cool about Tulane's success and other schools like them, you know, they can pour their money into the portal, and they don't have to worry about facilities. You remember when facilities were important?
Well,
the arms
Summerall
race.
said as much.
Nobody cares.
Right.
Those players just want cash.
Right.
You know, you don't have to build up all these facilities. You know, and they're not as big into tradition either, or a big conference.
No.
You know, that's what Brian Kelly was saying. He was talking about these smaller conferences like the AAC. You know, they're going after his players.
Yeah.
You know, so those little schools like Tulane that used to be little and bottom feeders, you know, they can get in the mix. And the big schools like Florida and LSU, they have trouble keeping those players from them.
Right.
So that's one good part of NIL and the portal. It's kind of given the other programs that were suffering for years a chance, and that's what you see with Tulane.
LSU 8-4. They'll be taking on Baylor, who is also 8-4 in Houston in the Texas Bowl. That is on New Year's Eve. That is a 2:30 kickoff. They've done well in the portal. Again, I saw something recently where again they were talked about as being the #1 team in the portal. Things have changed. Again, Brian Kelly was very hesitant to get into again the transfer portal and NIL, etc. We talked about on the radio show, there seems to be a realization that, again, that this has got to be the path that, again, LSU and major universities have to take if they're going to be able to compete. They just had the Kelly $1 million match that he put up, and again, there's some anonymous donor that's been involved now that's going to put up money now for every dollar put up. That's you?
Me, yeah.
Well, where's mine? Because for every dollar put up, again, there's going to be a $3 match here. I'll take some of that.
All that I said about not being a fan, I was lying.
Yeah, he was lying.
I'm supporting. No, actually, the Tiger Rag magazine comes out early January, and we took a deep dive into the portal and what led to Brian Kelly switching that way. Because just a few weeks ago, he was saying the portal is no way to build a team. And then when he lost Underwood, and when he fell to 8-4, he decided, you know, we got to go to the portal. You know, and as he said, you know, they came in under the cap last year because they didn't get a lot of guys in the portal, and they were pooling the money for Underwood. Well, they lost Underwood to Michigan, and they got extra money, and they're spending it right now because, you know, they had bigger numbers in the portal in the past. You know, like they had 16 guys the first year, and 13, but he was just filling a roster. And then they just had 6 last year, and none of them were really great. In fact, only 2 of them are ranked in the top 100. Right now, they got 6 guys ranked in the top 100 by 247sports.com, which has them number 2 overall to Ole Miss. But they're going for quality. And they're getting starters. You know, Brian saw it early on as something to top off your tank.
Kind of backfill
his quote. You know, depth, backups, you know, maybe a good guy here and there. But now he's going for the starters. And he's got that in Barian Brown, the Kentucky wide receiver, and then Nick Anderson, the receiver he just got from Oklahoma. The portal's not the end-all, be-all, but I think you're going to see some impact this year more than ever for Kelly's team at LSU.
And look, again, there is an emphasis on it, right? I mean, when you look at it, LSU's always had donors with the TAF. They've done a really good job in building facilities, as you mentioned. But now there seems to be a clarion call out, not just to the millionaire and billionaires that are LSU fans in this state or, again, around the country, but just to the everyday fan to get involved in again, raising money for NIL. Hence this $1 million match.
Well, you know, it's not all Kelly, because when NIL first started was in 2021. Kelly was still at Notre Dame. He got here in 2022. But the LSU athletic department was slow to move to portal. So was Florida. A lot of these programs that were used to recruiting on their name and culture and tradition and their stadium, they were kind of slow to move to it. You know, well, because LSU can't recruit to its stadium anymore.
Right.
Kids don't want that. They want money.
Right.
You know, you can get some kids, as Brian said, with you can't get the hometown discount. The kids grow up wanting to play at LSU that are from Louisiana, but they got to be paid too.
Right.
You know, so LSU as an institution really had to change how it did things toward the portal, and they're finally doing it because they struggled at first. Mississippi State struggled at first. Florida struggled. You know, it's a new game, and it looks like LSU's finally figured a way to do it.
I do want to ask you, because you did cover him, TJ Finley signs with Tulane in the transfer portal again with his 5th or 6th school. What are your thoughts?
Let's see. He was at LSU,
then Auburn, right?
Then Central Florida,
right?
Now Tulane. So
Texas State in between there.
So Tulane's his 5th school.
Texas State and then Southeastern, right? Didn't he go to Southeastern?
I don't know. Man.
I mean, again, it was hard for me to keep up, but
what's his transcript look like, or can he find it?
I'm not sure,
may have
but I will say this: he's probably one of the more
experienced
experienced college quarterbacks in the nation,
and most well-traveled. I just think that's too much, man, and nothing against.
Do you think
TJ.
there should be a cap on NIL?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think when you sign with your first school as a true freshman, you should have to stay there for at least 3 semesters.
3 semesters,
or you know that'll get you through one full season and then the next spring. Okay, then you can leave. You got too many kids that they're not grown up, they're not emotionally mature. They're trying to leave as soon as something's not right. They need to learn how to stick with something.
Yes.
Okay, not for 4 years, but for at least a year and a half. So they need to do that.
So don't penalize a kid for transferring like it used to be. We had to sit out a year, but you would like to see if
you have to stay at your first school for at least a year and a half.
You know,
and I think that would work. But you know, it really was smart when you had to sit out a year, because then you really thought about it.
Right, you did.
Kids still transferred, and the graduate transfer rule was the greatest rule ever.
It really is.
Because those kids were mature, they graduated, and they didn't have to sit out. That's what happened to Joe Burrow.
Right.
But as far as the portal cap, I think they do need some kind of cap, like the NFL has. But you know, they'll just, it's such a big, there's more teams, they'll just cheat over the cap. Just like you remember DeBartolo at San Francisco, he cheated over the cap. Give him this little job on the side or whatever, you know, or some property.
Yes.
So they're always going to cheat, but a cap would make sense for college.
And the pool's going to even get bigger now with revenue sharing.
Right. You know, the schools that are ready for that and can get the money out of their own system. And LSU, that's something else LSU's been good at. They're ready.
Yes,
they've been preparing for that revenue share, but there needs to be more regulations across the board on the portal and NIL, because it was one of those things that looked good on paper, but they didn't organize it well enough.
You know, again, it's the Wild Wild West.
Yeah,
and you need some type of control. I would agree. And look, I'm not against kids getting paid. And not against kids having the ability to be able to move from school to school.
But not 4 and 5 schools. That hurts the kid. They don't realize it. They think it's fun, but it really hurts them down the road.
And for some of these kids that are getting this money now, they're not NFL players. This is the most money they're going to make playing sports.
Right.
And again, in a lot of cases, these some kids need this money for their family. So again, I do not begrudge that. Get what you can get. But at the same time, again, there got to be some controls on this. Okay?
Yeah.
And I almost feel like a curmudgeon constantly talking about that, but again, it just feels like it's out of control.
Right, because you know, the kids who aren't going to make pro ball, they need to focus on school and finish school and get a job in the real world outside of football. And it's great that they can make money while they're doing it, but they're making it hard on themselves if they're trying to do that while going to 4 different schools.
Right, and again, you know, if it's always talked about, if you get a Tulane diploma, that is again a diploma that will help you for life, okay, in terms of your contacts, etc. But if you're skipping to 3, 4 different schools, you know, where are you going to get the help down the line in terms of business, etc.? Where are you going to set? I want to get to the Pelicans, so let's move on for just quickly, because we only got about 4 minutes left in the show. 5-22, second worst record in the NBA. Now again, the latest salvo that was thrown out by the media was Jake Fisher and Mark Stein saying that everyone on the team is available to be traded with the exception of Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, and Yves Missi. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, even if you want to blow up the Saints, you should have already blown up the Pelicans. My goodness, I mean, you know, maybe some people that are already there can participate in that, but you know, again, this is one of those seasons where you gotta look at things and completely start over. They put too much faith on players who are constantly getting injured.
It is,
and their roster is just in shambles. So you know, both pro teams in New Orleans need to start over. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, and again, look, it's just very difficult to have your superstars that are constantly injured because
Right.
again, you can fill in around those superstars, but those guys have to be available, and that's been the biggest issue over the last 6 years with Ingram and Zion Williamson, the inability to be available.
Yeah, I don't see the answer there. You know, you got to get new players, you got to get new management. You just got to start over.
Right, and again, that's it's going to be a really. It's a defining moment for Mrs. Benson as an owner of professional teams. It really is. Again, what's her next step with the Saints and Pelicans? Is she willing to bite the bullet and make the tough decisions to be able to clean house and start over again? And then again, the wherewithal to be able to bring in guys or bring in individuals that again can turn these franchises around.
Or does she want to sell one of them?
Well, I mean, again, that's another question. Of course, again, it's always been told that again, any selling of the teams that you'd want them to stay here. There's no guarantee once you sell a team to an owner whether the owner's going to keep them here now.
Yeah, and how many cities have their hands in both teams like that?
Not many.
It's ridiculous.
Not many. I mean, well, again, you have some, but again, not many. Not many. But again, and look,
that's part of the problem.
It's a different. As things have changed in our business, how quickly it's changed, things have changed so quickly in professional sports as well. And you have to be able to keep up with that. And again,
I don't remember the Patriots handling a basketball team.
No.
You know?
No. And at this point, again, we'll see. But this is a defining off season for both of those programs, no doubt about it. One more time, if you would, please tell folks about your fantastic book and how folks can get it.
You can get this at Barnes & Noble in Metairie and in Baton Rouge and AcadianHouse.com. Online, order Amazon.com, and January 22nd at the Cannery on Toulouse. Luncheon, the books are going to be on sale there, and Skip's going to be autographing books there that Tuesday, January 22nd, because Skip doesn't do the autographs. He only does autographs if it's in person,
right?
Because he's old school.
Okay, there you go. Congratulations on your induction to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Again, a well-deserved honor, and again, thank you for all you've done with again us working together over the last decade.
Thank you.
Or so.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, Glenn
Appreciate
Guilbeau.
it.
Again, the great Glenn Guilbeau with us again from editor and columnist at Tiger Rag, and also writing for the Saints, writing about the Saints on Fansided. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program. There's a QR code on your screen that would take you again to my website and also WLAE-TV YouTube page. Check your listings from Pelican Sports Television, WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV 2 are on YouTube, and of course on our website. So many ways to catch our program. We're so blessed there. Want to thank first of all, don't forget, catch me on the radio, 106.1 The Ticket, 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Anchor, Spotify is where you can find our podcast. We're on all podcasting platforms. And of course, as always, remember the app is available for you at 106.1 The Ticket. So download the app. You'll take the station and the show with you everywhere. I want to thank the underwriters who make the show possible. So again, this is our last live show of the year. We appreciate each and one of those underwriters who make the show possible. Thank you so much for, again, your support of our program and our station. We appreciate, again, our audience to continue to support those underwriters. Also, again, the staff here at WLAE-TV do a fantastic job producing our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, Thomas Healy, and the best director on the planet, my partner in this, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. And, of course, for Glenn Guilbeau, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks for watching.
We are one community
with one mission
and one heartbeat. We are resilient,
fearless,
joyful,
and visionary.
We support one another through challenges,
push each other towards excellence,
and are always filled with Christ's love.
We take pride in our traditions
and stay true to our roots. We are committed to caring for every aspect of our community.
We are competitive, yet humble,
and give all of our success to the glory of God.
We are invested in one another and view each other through the eyes of Christ.
We leave PJP transformed,
proud,
and capable of doing anything that we put our minds to.
We are loyal and true to the red, gold, and blue.
We are John Paul Jaguars.
Experience the holiday tradition of candlelight music